the focus areas that UPSC often emphasizes. This will give you a solid foundation for developing comprehensive essays on polity-related topics. These topics reflect concerns about the erosion of ethics in governance, explore how ethical lapses affect public trust, and suggest measures such as ethical training for politicians and civil servants to promote a culture of integrity. Here you can highlight the Arab Spring as an example, where the power of the people led to the downfall of long-standing authoritarian regimes across several countries. This collective voice and action of millions of citizens shows that public could bring about political changes even in highly controlled environments. Perceived as exploiting charitable causes for branding purposes often face backlash. This shows that the absence of humility not only diminishes the effectiveness of the service but also negatively impacts the credibility of the individual or organization involved. Next topic is sunlight is said to be the best of the disinfectants. So this is a metaphor essentially that emphasizes the importance of transparency and openness in governance. Hello everyone. Today we will dive into the theme of polity, which is a crucial component in UPSC essay topics. Polity not only covers the structural aspects of governance in India, but it also explores deeper philosophical and ethical questions about democracy, federalism, and administration, and even the judiciary. We'll analyze some previous year questions and their underlying trends to help you understand the focus areas that UPSC often emphasizes. This will give you a solid foundation for developing comprehensive essays on polity-related topics. So we will begin by this theme, India since independence. This includes questions that examine democracy, national identity, and progress since 1947. So UPSC has repeatedly asked questions critiquing India's democratic setup, such as whether Indian democracy and how far has democracy in India delivered the goods. These questions ask for a critical analysis of the achievements and shortcomings of Indian democracies. In your essays, it is important to balance the discussion by acknowledging both the progress made in areas like electoral reforms and political representation, as well as the ongoing challenges such as political corruption, electoral malpractices, and socio-economic inequalities. Next up, questions like, is colonial mentality hindering India's success? And in the views of context of Gandhiji's views, explore Swadhinata, Swaraj, and Dharmaraj. Critically comment on their contemporary relevance in Indian democracy. These questions highlight a recurring concern about whether colonial attitudes still impact the governance and society. These questions require you to draw from Gandhian philosophy, discussing how these concepts were not just about political freedom but also about self-governance and moral leadership. Relate this to contemporary India, exploring if how colonial mindsets persist in areas like bureaucracy, education, and governance. UPSC also touches upon aspirational themes such as dreams which should not let India sleep, and why should we be proud of being Indians. These questions encourage you to reflect on the national pride, the country's achievements, and the future vision for India. When tackling such topics, focus on building a narrative that balances India's rich cultural heritage with its aspirations and progress and innovation and global leadership. Now, there are also topics that uses reflections on missed opportunities. So the topic like what we have not learned during the 50 years of independence is an example of the topic that requires introspections. Essays on such topics should highlight areas where India might have missed the opportunities for growth, such as in education, healthcare, and infrastructure development, and suggest a way forward by learning from these lapses. The next theme is of federalism and decentralization. These topics focus on relationship between union and the states, resource sharing, and the impact of decentralization. So here questions like impact of new economic measures on fiscal ties between the union and states of India. Explore how economic reforms have reshaped financial relationships. When discussing such topics, delve into the implication of policies like GST and central state fiscal imbalances. You should analyze whether economic measures have strengthened the cooperative federalism or have they created new challenges. Now, if we look at questions like water resources should be under the control of central government. This and water disputes between states and federal India highlight ongoing issues in resource sharing management. In your essays, it is crucial to explore how water sharing disputes impact federal relations and whether centralization of water resources might be a solution or if it could undermine the state autonomy. Next up is the topic on cooperative federalism, whether it is a myth or a reality. So it asks for a critique of the central government's approach to the working with states. You should evaluate whether the policies labeled as cooperative genuinely promote collaboration or they merely mask a centralized control approach. Decentralization is also examined here through questions like evaluation of Panchayati Raj system in India from the point of view of eradication of power to the people. Now, this topic focuses on whether it has empowered local governance or if it remains limited due to political and administrative hurdles. Next up, the topic is about language and federalism. So, the language problem in India, its past and present and prospects, is again a topic here that has been asked by UPSCs. Essay on this topic should cover how linguistic policies have influenced federal dynamics, the cultural significance of language, and the challenges they pose for national integration. Now, if we come to the next theme here, which is administration. This theme comes with a focus on ethics, transparency, and relationship between politics and bureaucracy. So, if we look at the topic of how should a civil servant conduct himself, and there are better practices to the best practices. In your essays, highlight the role of civil servants as public servants, emphasizing the need for transparency and accountability and ethical behavior. Draw on examples of civil servants who exemplify these values and discuss frameworks like the Code of Conduct for Civil Servants. Next up, we also have a question on politics without ethics is a disaster. Also, the VIP cult is a bane of Indian democracy. These topics reflect concerns about the erosion of ethics in governance. Explore how ethical lapses affect public trust and suggest measures such as ethical training for politicians and civil servants to promote a culture of integrity. Next, the question asked is need for transparency in public administration. And topics on disaster management stress the importance of building a responsive and transparent administration system. Reference the implementation of RTI Act as a milestone on this area. Next up is politics, bureaucracy and business, a fatal triangle. Now, this topic asks for a critical analysis of the interaction between these entities. It asks you to highlight how collusion can lead to corruption and inefficiency, and also proposes reforms such as anti-corruption legislation and independent watchdog bodies. Now, if we move to the next theme here, it is of judiciary. So the first questions like judicial activism and Indian democracy require you to discuss the balance between judicial intervention and overreach, citing landmark cases where judicial activism has led to progressive reforms. Highlight how both benefits and criticism of an activist in judiciary. Next, a question that justice must reach the poor. This topic emphasizes inclusivity in the judicial system. When writing on such topics, focus on challenges that marginalized communities face in accessing justice and propose solutions such as legal aid services and fast track courts. We also have a topic here that we may brave human laws, but we cannot resist the natural laws. This topic invites a broader ethical perspective. You should explore the limits of man-made laws in the face of natural realities, tying it to contemporary environmental or social justice issues. To conclude, the UPSC essay topics on polity consistently focus on evaluating India's democratic progress, examining the challenges of federalism and administration, and exploring the evolving role of judiciary. The trend analysis shows a need for aspirants to think critically, balancing the achievements with shortcomings, and to propose a realistic, constructive solutions. Understanding these themes deeply will not only help you in your essay paper but also provide a valuable insight for other aspects of UPSC preparation. To deepen your understanding, we'll explore some quotes related to each of these themes that we just discussed. These quotes serve as a probable question and will guide you on how to approach them effectively to develop content-rich essays. So let us move to the quotes. Okay, so the first topic here is man's capacity for justice makes democracy possible, but man's inclination to injustice makes democracy necessary. Now, this quote highlights the dual nature of humanity and the role of democracy in managing it. We'll explore each branch in detail and provide value additions to enrich this discussion. So the first question here is that what does the capacity for injustice mean in a democracy? So humans have innate sense of fairness and equality. This suggests that at the core of every individual is a fundamental desire for justice. Democracies are founded on cooperation and pursuit of common good, and acknowledging that people have the capacity to discern what is fair and just. This capacity underpins the democratic values such as equality before the law, freedom of speech, and a right to fair trial. Democracies are founded on cooperation. So the capacity for justice allows people to cooperate, compromise, and work towards collective goals. In a democracy, this translates into formation of laws and institutions that aim to uphold justice and protect the rights of all citizens. Now, historically, if you look at such references, such as the Magna Carta or the Indian Constitution's emphasis on justice, social, economic, and political, shows you how societies have always sought to institutionalize the human capacity for justice. These examples highlight the evolution of democratic principles in response to humanity's innate sense of fairness. The next question here is that why is democracy necessary given a man's inclination to injustice? So it provides checks and balances to prevent power abuse. While humans have a capacity for justice, they also have tendencies towards greed, power, and corruption. Democracy is necessary because it puts systems in place such as separation of powers, regular elections, and independent judiciary. This limits any individual or group's ability to abuse the power. It also protects individual rights and ensures an accountability. Democracies establish mechanisms to hold leaders and institutions accountable, ensuring that injustices are addressed. This is crucial in protecting citizens from arbitrary use of power, safeguarding their rights, and maintaining societal harmony. Drawing from Gandhian philosophy, we can link the concept of Swaraj or self governance as not only political independence but as a system that demands self discipline and moral responsibility. This aligns with the idea that while democracy checks power, it also requires individuals to rise above their base inclinations. Next question here is, how does democracy balance justice and injustice? So it empowers citizens to hold institutions accountable. Democracies empower people by giving them the right to vote, the right to protest, and the right to demand accountability. These tools are essential for ensuring that justice is served and that any form of injustice is addressed promptly. It also encourages laws and policies to reduce inequalities. How is this done? That democracies promote laws aimed at leveling the playing field, such as affirmative action policies, anti discrimination laws, and welfare programs that uplift the marginalized communities. By addressing systematic injustice, democracy seeks to create a more equitable society. Here, you can discuss how movements like civil rights movement in the US or the Right to Information Act in India demonstrate democracy's ability to empower citizens. These examples show how democracy can evolve to correct injustices and ensure a fairer society. The next question here is that what challenges do democracies face in achieving justice? So the first challenge here is that corruption and power imbalances undermine the democratic values. Even within a democratic framework, corruption and concentrated power can distort justice. Politicians and bureaucrats may manipulate systems for personal gain, leading to inequality and disenfranchised. Politicians and bureaucrats may manipulate systems for personal gain, leading to inequality. Now, misinformation distorts public perception and decision making. In the digital age, misinformation can sway public opinion, distort facts, and influence democratic processes like election. This poses a significant challenge to achieving a just society, as informed and educated citizenry is crucial for democracy to function effectively. Bringing in current issues here, such as the impact of fake news on the election or the role of lobbying in policy making, can explain how modern democracies are vulnerable to both internal and external manipulations. These insights emphasize the need for vigilance and reform to safeguard justice. Now, the next question here is how democracies strengthen justice. It strengthens them by promoting transparency, accountability, and civic engagement. Democracies can be strengthened by ensuring transparency in governance, promoting accountability through independent institutions like anti-corruption bureaus, and encouraging active civic participation. When citizens are engaged and informed, they are better equipped to demand and uphold justice. Protecting human rights and ensuring rule of law is again another part of it. So this includes upholding judicial independence, protecting journalists, and ensuring that law enforcement agencies are free from political influence. So here, referencing successful models of democratic governance such as Scandinavian countries known for their low corruption levels and strong social justice frameworks can provide practical examples of how transparency and accountability lead to more just societies. Highlighting these cases can serve as models for improving democratic governance elsewhere. Now let us move to the next topic. Speed of decision making is the essence of good governance. Now, this quote emphasizes the importance of swift action in governance, highlighting how quick and efficient decision making impacts various aspects of administration and service delivery. So, the first question here is that why is speed in decision making important for good governance? It is important because it ensures timely response to crisis and urgent situations. So in governance, speed is essential for addressing emergencies like natural disasters, pandemics, or even economic downturns. So quick decision making allows governments to mobilize resources, implement relief measures, and minimize damage. An example is how countries that respond quickly to the COVID-19 pandemic were able to curb its speed more effectively than those that delayed the action. It also keeps up with the fast changing dynamics of society and economy. In today's fast paced world, governance must adapt with rapid technological, social, and economical changes. For example, timely decisions regarding economic policies or digital infrastructure development can keep a nation competitive in global arena. It also promotes efficiencies in implementing policies and delivery services. So speedy decision making ensures that policies are implemented without unnecessary delays, leading to more effective public service delivery. This is crucial for maintaining public trust and confidence in governance. You can highlight historical examples like India's swift economic reforms in 1991 showcases how impact of quick decision making on economic recovery and growth. It demonstrates how urgency and decisiveness in governance can transform a crisis into an opportunity for development. Next question here is that what are the benefits of quick decision making? So quick decisions means faster executions of projects and services that reduces bureaucratic red tapeism. This efficiency is vital in areas like infrastructure development, healthcare delivery, and disaster management. So it boosts public confidence in the government's ability to act. When citizens see their government responding swiftly to challenges, it strengthens their faith in the system. This confidence is critical for societal stability and for gaining public support during crisis. It also facilitates economic growth through timely policy interventions. Quick and effective policy changes can create a conducive environment for economic growth. Timely fiscal measures, for instance, can stabilize markets and encourage investment, boosting the overall economy. Now, you can draw parallels with global practices such as how Singapore's government is known for its efficient and rapid policy implementation, which has contributed significantly to its development and economic success. Such examples illustrate the real world impact for quick decision making. Now, the next question here is that what are the challenges that arise with quick decision making? So first off, there is risk of hasty or poorly thought out policies. While speed is crucial, it can also lead to errors. If decisions are made without adequate analysis. Hasty policies might overlook potential consequences leading to inefficiencies or even crisis later. For instance, hurried economic policies without thorough evaluation can result into inflation or even fiscal imbalances. Then there is potential for inadequate consultation with all of the stakeholders. Quick decisions sometimes bypass consultation with key stakeholders, including the civil society, businesses, and local governments. This leads to resistance, lack of buy-in, or policies that don't address the needs of all segments of the society. So, what is the solution here? Is that balancing speed with accuracy and inclusivity. The challenge for good governance is to strike a balance between making fast decisions and ensuring that they are accurate and inclusive. This balance is crucial for sustainable, effective policy outcomes. Mention the concept of evidence-based policy making, which emphasizes the using of data and research to inform quick but well-founded decisions. This ensures that this speed does not come at the cost of quality or inclusivity. Next question here is that how can governments ensure quality alongside the speed? So first off, governments need to implement streamlined processes for quick review and action. Governments can create frameworks that allow for rapid evaluation of policy options and quick implementation. Streamlining bureaucratic processes and establishing task force for emergency situation can facilitate this. Next, what the government can do is utilize technology for data-driven decision making. Leveraging technology can greatly enhance the speed and accuracy for decision making. Governments can use data analytics to monitor real-time developments and predict outcomes, ensuring that decisions are not only quick but also well informed. Next is that we can ensure transparency and accountability to maintain the trust. For quick decisions to be effective, they must also be transparent and accountable. Public communication about decisions and their rationale helps build trust and ensures that speed does not compromise the democratic processes. Referencing initiatives like India's direct benefit transfer system, which uses technology to deliver subsidies directly to the beneficiaries, showcases how technology can enhance both speed and transparency in governance. Last question here is that what role do institutions and leadership play? So strong institutions support rapid and effective decisions. Institutions like independent regulatory bodies, crisis management agencies, and judiciary systems play a vital role in ensuring decisions are swift but are also adhere to legal and ethical standards. When institutions are robust and well organized, they can quickly mobilize resources and implement decisions effectively. Leadership must prioritize responsiveness without compromising the integrity. Good leadership is critical in balancing speed with ethical and informed decision making. Leaders who prioritize accountability and inclusivity while acting swiftly set a strong example for governance. For instance, leaders who communicate transparently during crisis build confidence and promote unity. Here you can highlight the importance of collaborative governance where leaders engage with experts, stakeholders, and institutions. This demonstrates how collective decision making can enhance the quality and speed of policies. Here you can also include examples like New Zealand's response to the pandemic under Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, who relied on expert advice and clear communication. This illustrates effective leadership in action. Now let us move to the next topic. So as we have seen that UPSC as previously also asked questions on water dispute. So this quote is on those lines that thousands have lived without love, but not one without water. So this statement emphasizes the critical importance of water as a fundamental resource for life, surpassing even emotions or social needs. So the first question here is that what does this statement imply about water's importance? So as we discussed that water is an essential resource for survival, unlike emotional needs which are secondary. This quote underscores this idea. While love is a cherished human experience, water is a non-negotiable necessity. It's an absolute prerequisite for life, health, and survival, highlighting the indispensable role of water in sustaining not only human life but all forms of life. This highlights the fundamental role of water in sustaining life and civilization. Beyond survival, water is crucial for civilization for the purposes of agriculture, sanitation, industry, and overall societal development. Civilizations have historically thrived around water bodies, and the availability of water resources has determined the growth and sustainability of communities. Here you can bring in historical examples like the rise of ancient civilizations such as those along with Nile, Indus, and Tigris rivers. These civilizations highlights how access to water shaped the growth and prosperity of societies. Relating these examples to the contemporary times, you could discuss how water scarcity still influences the development and stability of regions. Now, the next question that is linked with this topic is that how does this statement relate to water disputes? So, the scarcity of water leads to competition and conflict between nations and regions. The growing scarcity of water has turned it into a source of competition, leading to disputes over shared water resources. This is evident in conflicts like Kaveri river dispute between Indian states or the Nile water dispute between Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia. It also underscores the urgency of fair and effective water resource management. This statement emphasizes the need for cooperative management and equitable sharing of water resources. To avoid conflicts, it is crucial for nations and regions to establish agreements that allocate water fairly, ensuring sustainable use of all parties involved. Here, you can discuss international frameworks like Indus Water Treaty between India and Pakistan, which has maintained water sharing agreements despite political tensions. Such examples demonstrate how legal and diplomatic efforts are essential in managing shared resources to prevent conflicts. Next question here is, what are the consequences of inadequate access of water? So firstly, it impacts your health, the agriculture, and overall quality of life. Lack of access to clean water affects public health and it leads to waterborne diseases as well. Poor sanitation and malnutrition are some of the consequences. Agriculture, which relies heavily on water, also suffers, impacting food security and livelihood. Now, inadequate access of water also leads to economic losses, disruption of livelihoods. So, water scarcity can result in significant economic losses, particularly in agricultural dependent economies. Industries that require water for production may also face challenges affecting overall economic productivity. Next up is social and political tensions that arise from water scarcity. Now, these shortages can lead to migration, social unrest, and even political instability. When communities or nations compete with limited water resources, tensions escalate and conflicts become more likely. Here you can use real world examples like Cape Town's day zero water crisis or the water scarcity in California shows the economic, social and political consequences of water shortages. These cases illustrates the urgency of addressing water scarcity to avoid larger systematic issue. Next question here is, how can water be managed sustainably? So it can be done by implementing equitable water sharing agreements. These agreements should account for the needs for all stakeholders and ensure that resources are distributed in a way that supports long-term sustainability. Also, investing in conservation, recycling, and efficient usage of water is also a sustainable way to manage it. Technologies like drip irrigation, rainwater harvesting, and wastewater recycling are crucial for maximizing the use of available water. Promoting water efficient practices can ensure that limited resources are used wisely and sustainably. Also, adopting policies that prioritize sustainable and fair resource distribution. Governments must implement policies that regulate water usage across different sectors, ensuring that priority is given to essential uses like drinking water, agriculture, and sanitation. Long-term planning and infrastructure development should focus on enhancing water security. Here you can mention global initiatives like UN's Sustainable Goal Development 6, which focus on clear water and sanitation. It shows the international commitment to sustainable water management. This highlighting such efforts reflects the collective responsibility to manage water resources efficiently. Now, the last question here is, why global cooperation is essential for water management? So, many water bodies are shared across borders, thus, it makes collaboration essential. Rivers and lakes often span across multiple countries, requiring collaborative management to avoid conflicts. When nations cooperate, they can create sustainable systems that benefit all parties involved, ensuring that water resources are not depleted or monopolized by any single entity. Next up is that international agreements can prevent conflicts and ensure mutual benefits. Agreements like the Helsinki Rules on the uses of international rivers provide frameworks for cooperation, helping countries manage shared resources peacefully and effectively. These agreements focus on fair distribution, protecting ecosystems, and promoting sustainable use. Here you can discuss the importance of organizations like International Commission for the Protection of Danube River, shows how international cooperation can protect and manage water bodies effectively. Such examples highlight that while water is a local resource, its management often requires global approach. So now let us move to the next topic. Alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much. This statement emphasizes the power of collaboration and unity. It highlights the limitation of individuals' efforts and the amplified impact of collective action. So the first question here is, what does alone signify in this context? So the limitations and challenges faced by individuals acting independently is basically what alone means here. So acting alone often restricts one's ability to address large scale issues. Individuals may have limited resources, skills, or reach, making it difficult to create meaningful or long lasting impact on their own. The inability to achieve large scale impact without support. This part of the statement suggests that while one person's actions may be valuable, they often lack the scope needed to drive systematic changes. The challenges of time, energy, and capacity limit what a single individual can accomplish. You can illustrate this example such as social movements. For instance, Mahatma Gandhi's role in India's independence was significant, but it was the collective effort of millions of Indians that truly achieved the independence. This highlights how individual leaders inspire, but masses participation is what drives large-scale impact. Now coming to the next question, that what does together imply? So together implies collaboration and collective effort. Working together implies the pooling of resources, skills, and efforts. When people collaborate, they bring diverse strengths and perspectives, and this creates a more powerful and impactful and effective force than any single person could. Together also implies the power of unity and shared purpose to achieve more. When individuals unite under a common goal, they build momentum and motivation, which drives them to achieve outcomes that were previously thought impossible for too challenging for one person alone. Here you can use the reference, the formation of international organization like UN. The UN exemplifies how countries come together to work on global challenges like climate change, peacekeeping, and humanitarian aid, achieving results that no one single country could accomplish alone. Such examples show the value of unity in action. The next question here is that how does doing so little compare to doing so much? So individual efforts may lead to small or isolated results. While individual actions are important, their impact is often limited. A single person's contribution, though meaningful, may not have the power to influence or transform the larger societal issues without support of others. Also, collective action can lead to significant changes and greater outcomes. When people are coming together, they combine their efforts, resources, and ideas, creating a force that can tackle larger problems more effectively. This collective approach allows for greater reach, influence, and sustainability of outcomes. Here you can discuss the success of movements like civil rights movement in US, where figures like Martin Luther King Jr. were instrumental. The widespread participation of communities and activists made a transformative movement. It shows that collective action can amplify the impact of individual leaders and create a significant societal change. Next question here is, why is togetherness important in achieving more? So that's because it combines strengths, resources, and diverse perspective. As we discussed, it also builds momentum and amplifies the efforts for the larger impact. The next question here is, how can we encourage a culture of working together? This can be done by fostering inclusivity, communication, and shared goals. This can also be done by encouraging teamwork and valuing diverse contributions. Right? Now let us move to the next topic. The next topic is the power of the people is stronger than the people in power. So this statement highlights the strength of collective effort and action and public unity over official authority. This emphasizes the role of citizens in shaping governance and driving change. So the first question here is that what does the power of the people mean? So the power of the people means the collective strength and influence of citizens This refers to the ability of people, when united, to create movements, demand accountability, and influence decisions. It is about collective voice and action of individuals coming together for a common cause. The ability of public to drive change through unity and action. When people mobilize and stand united, they can push for reforms, protest against injustice, and hold leaders accountable. This collective power can shift policies, create social change, and dismantle oppressive systems. You can mention the concept of people power seen in historical events like the fall of Berlin Wall, where the collective will of the citizens led to the reunification of Germany. Such examples demonstrate how public strength can transcend political barriers and bring about transformative changes. The next question here is, how does this power compare to the power of those in authority? So while leaders hold official positions, the people's collective action can shape policy and demand accountability. Although the leaders and governments hold formal authority, their power is ultimately derived from the people. In a democracy, the public's role is more crucial in shaping and challenging policies when they feel that these are unjust or misaligned with the public. And true democracy is upheld by people's participation and vigilance. The real strength of a democracy lies not just in its institutions, but in the active involvement of its citizens. Without the people's participation and scrutiny, the system risks becoming disconnected from the public it serves. Here you can cite the Indian freedom struggle as an example, where the power of people led by figures like Mahatma Gandhi surpassed the colonial power of the British. It illustrates how mass mobilization can change even entrenched authority, bringing about significant political change. Now, the next question here is, why is the power of the people stronger? It is stronger because public unity can create social movements that influence laws and reforms. When people unite for a cause, their collective strength can lead to movements that reshape societies, such as civil rights, women's rights, or even environmental movements. These movements have the power to influence legal and societal reforms that benefit the larger public. Next up, mass action and solidarity can overcome oppressive governance. In oppressive regimes or unjust situations, the unity of the people has historically led to revolutions and protests that bring down authoritarian rule and restore democratic or fair governance. Here you can highlight the Arab Spring as an example, where the power of the people led to the downfall of long-standing authoritarian regimes across several countries. This collective voice and action of millions of citizens shows that public could bring about political changes even in highly controlled environments. Next question here is that what are the examples of people's power influencing change? So the examples could be the civil rights movements, protests and revolutions as we discussed right now, or grassroots activism resulting in policy changes and governance reforms. Coming to the next question, how can people effectively harness their power? So people can harness their power by civic engagement and participation, by promoting awareness and unity for common causes, and by ensuring that citizens have platforms to voice their concerns and mobilize the public, right? So we can move on to the next question. So the next topic here is, service without humility is selfishness and egotism. This statement emphasizes that the true essence of service lies in humility, and without it, service becomes self-serving. So the first question in this regard is, what does it mean to serve without humility? So it means that performing acts of service for recognition or self-gain. This implies that the person's motivation is not genuine care for others, but rather a desire for recognition, praise, or some form of self-benefit. It's about fulfilling one's own ego rather than addressing the needs of others. Now, the other part is focusing on personal benefits rather than the needs of others. When service is done without humility, the focus shifts from helping others to what one can gain from the act itself. This could be material benefits, social recognition, or enhanced reputation. You can add the concept of performative altruism here. This is often seen on social media, where individuals and organizations highlight their charitable acts for visibility rather than genuine concern for the people. This shows how even acts that seem noble can lack authenticity when the focus is on self promotion. The next question here is that, how does humility impact the quality of service? So it ensures genuine compassion and concern for others. Humility allows individuals to serve with a focus on the well being of others, putting their needs first. It transforms service into an act of compassion rather than just a transaction. It promotes selflessness, focusing on the well being of others instead of personal gain. When a service is approached with humility, it is done without expecting anything in return. This selfless approach ensures that the service remains pure and meaningful, fostering a true connection and making a positive impact. You can highlight the example of Mother Teresa's work, where humility and compassion were the foundation of the service. She focused on the needs of the marginalized without seeking recognition or reward, which amplified the impact and the authenticity of her works. Next question here is, why is service without humility considered selfish? Why is it selfish? Because it prioritizes one's own image or rewards over true service, as we discussed. It can exploit the act of helping others for self promotion or power. You can discuss the role of charity for publicity here, where corporations or influential individuals publicize their philanthropic efforts primarily to enhance their own image. The kind of service lacks sincerity and can be viewed as self serving rather than genuinely beneficial for others. What are the consequences of self centered service? So the one of the consequences is lack of trust and authenticity in relationships. When people sense that service is performed for selfish reasons, it undermines their trust. The recipients may feel like they are being used as a means to an end, which damages the authenticity of the relationship between the giver and the receiver. It also undermines genuine intention of helping and creates a negative impact. Service without humility can lead to negative perceptions and unintended harm. It may alienate those being served, who might feel objectified or even manipulated, thereby diminishing the positive impact that service should ideally have. You can mention how organizations that are perceived as exploiting charitable causes for branding purposes often face backlash. This shows that the absence of humility not only diminishes the effectiveness of the service but also negatively impacts the credibility of the individual or organization involved. The last question here is, how can one practice humility in service? So one can practice so by focusing on the needs of others rather than personal benefits. They can also do so by acknowledging the value of dignity of those being served. Also, This can be done by avoiding seeking recognition or praise for the acts of kindness. Here, the concept of anonymous philanthropy can be used where individuals and organizations donate or help without revealing their actual identity. And this form of giving embodies humility, as the focus remains entirely on the act of service rather than recognition attached to it. So, moving on to the next topic, sunlight is said to be the best of the disinfectants. So, this is a metaphor essentially that emphasizes the importance of transparency and openness in governance and institutions as a means to eliminate corruption, wrongdoing, and unethical behavior. So, the first question here is, what does the metaphor sunlight as disinfectant mean? So, it symbolizes transparency to expose and eliminate corruption or wrongdoing. Just as sunlight cleanses and disinfects by exposure, transparency acts as a tool to reveal and eliminate unethical practices. It ensures that actions and decisions are visible to the public, preventing malpractices from hiding in secrecy. It also highlights the importance of openness in maintaining integrity. The metaphor essentially means that integrity in governance and organization is best maintained when actions are transparent. Openness ensures that those in power are accountable, as it prevents concealment of unethical behavior. You can highlight historical events like the Watergate scandal, where investigative journalism, acting as a sunlight, exposed political corruption, leading to significant political accountability. This shows how transparency serves as a critical component in upholding the integrity of the institutions. Next question here is that, how does transparency act as a disinfectant? So it acts as a disinfectant as it allows public scrutiny of actions and decisions, and this in turn reduces corruption. Transparency enables citizens and oversight bodies to monitor actions and policies. When activities are visible to the public, the risk of corruption decreases because individuals in power are aware that their actions are being watched. It also promotes accountability by ensuring information is accessible to all. So, accessible information allows the public and media to ask questions, challenge decisions, and hold leaders accountable. It empowers citizens to participate actively in governance and demand institutions to justify their actions. Here you can discuss the Right to Information Act in India, which empowers citizens to request information from public authorities. This legislation acts as a practical disinfectant, encouraging transparency and accountability by giving the public access to information about government activities. The next question here is, why is transparency essential for accountability? So it is essential because it ensures leaders and institutions are answerable for their actions. Without transparency, it is easy for leaders and institutions to act without oversight, potentially leading to misuse of power. Transparency creates a system where leaders must explain and justify their actions, ensuring that they are held to ethical and legal standards. It also builds trust between the public and institutions by showing honesty and openness. Here you can highlight the importance of transparency in maintaining democratic health. The example of Scandinavian countries and high levels of transparency in governance correlates with low levels of corruption can be used here as well. Next question here is, what are the consequences of a lack of transparency? So one consequences corruption, misuse of power, and unethical behavior. So in the absence of transparency, power can be abused and corruption becomes more likely as individuals can act without fear of exposure. This secrecy allows for unethical behavior to persist and grow unchecked. It also erodes public trust that leads to disillusionment with the institutions. When people suspect or discover that institutions are hiding information, it damages their trust. This disillusionment can result in public disengagement, protests, or even civil unrest as people lose faith in those meant to serve them. Here you can discuss how lack of transparency has led to the protests and unrest in the various part of worlds. The last question here is, how can transparency be promoted effectively? So transparency can be promoted by implementing policies that mandate openness in governance, encouraging whistleblower protection and independent oversight. It can also be promoted by educating the public about the rights to access the information, right? So reference international initiatives like the Open Government Partnership, which encourages country to commit to transparency and accountability, can be used here. Such global efforts highlight the importance of cooperation and shared learning in promoting openness.